Welcome back to the Fight Pit, ladies and gentlemen. It is the UFC 303 episode, Pereira versus Prochazka 2. Roll the intro music. We back, folks. What up? Thank you guys for tuning in. It is the UFC 303, Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka 2 card at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas this Saturday, June 29th. We have some changes on this one that have gone down recently. Pereira and Prochazka step in to replace Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. And then Jamal Hill and Roundtree initially broke up. Then it was Olberg. Then it was Smith. Now it's Smith and Dolidze. A lot of changes on this one. And also, friend to the show, Peyton Talbot, minus 1,600. Insane, ridiculous. Looking to dominate under the big lights. MVP gets a big challenge in Ian Gary, moving up 7 spots from number 14 to number 7. And I think it's actually still going to be a pretty dope card, even though, we had a lot to look forward to when it was initially made. But do you like Pereira and Prochazka over Conor and Chandler, Gage?
Interestingly enough, yes, because there wasn't the usual fanfare of a Conor McGregor fight going into it that makes it a little entertaining. And I honestly think the way he was training, I don't think he was anywhere near what he was when he was a full-time fighter. And I think Michael Chandler is a full-time fighter. And I didn't think it was going to be as competitive as people thought it was going to be.
I agree.
Not Conor McGregor anymore. He's
not that Conor McGregor anymore.
He's washed of his own volition. If he stayed fighting constantly, who knows?
Right.
I just think he's taking a lot of time off, and his body's not holding up. And he put his body through a lot in his off time. But we know how Alex trains. We know how Jiri trains. And those two don't need to say a lot. And everyone's still going to be glued to that screen.
They definitely don't.
To that screen. Because the first fight was entertaining, and the second fight, I think, will be even more entertaining.
Yeah, the first one, I think, might have ended a little quick, but it was trending towards Alex Pereira getting a stoppage anyway, so I wasn't too upset about it, but definitely want to see more of that one. And I agree, I think Chandler was going to beat him a lot easier than everybody thinks. I think Conor McGregor, ever since he did the fight with Mayweather, things just haven't been the same. Just hasn't been the same, Conor. He hit a new level that, I think that's the one that stuck. That's the one that finally got the...
When he came back and fought Cowboy Cerrone, everyone was like, all right, maybe he's back. And then he fought Dustin the first time. We're like, no, he's not. He's...
Yeah. The second time, there was that Netflix show that they did. It was actually kind of cool to watch, even though, given the circumstances, I was rooting for Poirier in both of those. But they've been hyping his comeback forever, too. Ever since he went out, they've been hyping his comeback.
There also is the strong reality that he may never step in the octagon again.
We got to consider it. Because it's only going to be so long before Michael Chandler actually does pull the plug and say, okay, I'm never going to fight this dude. I need to get going.
And I think Dana White says it all the time. Conor doesn't need to fight.
Right. He hasn't needed to fight for a long time.
And he will never need to fight. He'll never hurt from money.
Never again. So we're going to kick off the prelims on this one, the early prelims. Me and Gage are going to tag team this whole card. And this one is, I think it's fairly decent considering, the replacements that we got. If this was announced as the initial card, I don't think anybody would have had a problem with it. We're kicking it off with 135 Ricky Simon versus Vinicius Oliveira. Ricky Simon opened 225, got up to 245, and then it's currently sitting at minus 240. Vinicius opened at plus 185 and is up to plus 200. So Ricky Simon has been favored in this fight ever since it opened. Ricky Simon 20-5, Vinicius 20-3. Pretty evenly matched guys. Ricky Simon has 6 KOs, 4 subs, 10 decision wins. Vinicius Oliveira has 16 KOs, 2 subs, and 2 decision wins. Ricky Simon coming off a loss, unanimous decision loss. Vinicius Oliveira coming off of a KO win. And I have liked Ricky Simon ever since I saw him in the beginning of his career. I've liked his style, and I've liked how he's progressed through each fight. Even in the ones that he loses, you can tell that he's still gaining from it. He's been the favorite in this one the whole way through, and I totally understand why. Like I said, fairly evenly matched in records, but I just think that Ricky Simon is going to be too much for Oliveira in this one. Oliveira is dangerous and could absolutely, catch him with a good one if he's not minding his P's and Q's, but I'm going to take Simon in this one. I think they're both going to be going for KOs, and I think that Ricky Simon is just going to be a little bit faster and get it first. I'm going to go under 2.5 on this one. Ricky Simon by KO for the official pick. And the next one up is 125 this time. Ray.
Yeah, that's Ray.
Ray Saruya. Ray Saruya versus Carlos Hernandez. Ray Saruya is open as a minus 500, so one of the larger favorites on this one betting wise. Gage, go ahead and let me know what you got.
It's our second biggest margin of odds on the entire card. It's for a reason. Ray is 9-0, making his UFC debut due to his first fight being canceled back in February, and then him having another full camp into this fight now in the end of June. Carlos Hernandez, this is his fourth fight in the UFC. He is 1-2 in the UFC and is coming off a loss. He didn't look great. He's been shooting takedowns, had great takedown efficiency or great takedown defense in his first 3 fights in the UFC. His striking totals have been under 50% in every fight, and his strikes absorbed have also been very high, which is not a good recipe against Ray, who is 9-0 for a reason. And I think he's going to make a pretty good impact at minus 500 in his UFC debut. So I would go under 1.5 Ray by finish. Drew, you're muted.
My bad. Don't normally do that. Do you have a specific type of finish that you're favoring?
I will get back to you on that one. I'm 50-50.
And you say you're going with under 1.5? You think it's a first rounder?
It has high potential to be a first rounder, I'm leaning more early second round. Just the way Carlos Hernandez has been finished, it's become late first or early second. And
right.
Going off of, I'm going to go submission. Sub. Ray has won his last almost every fight except for one by finish, and coming by rear naked choke, ground and pound, or Kimura. So I think he's going to go look for the rear naked early and often and probably get there.
I'd take that. I like that. That's a good one.
I would like to see a Kimura, though. Would like to see it.
I can't even remember the last time that I've seen any one of those actually get finished. I've seen a lot of people going for him, but I can't remember the last one that actually got finished in the UFC.
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a good while.
That would be a good performance of the night bonus for somebody on this one, which is going to be tough to come by because there's going to be a lot of competition for performance bonus on this one, I think. Moving on to the third fight, we're going up to heavyweights. It's our man Andrei Arlovski still doing it. Open at a plus 210 versus Martin Buday, opened as a minus 260. So we got another fairly heavy favorite on this one. Andrei Arlovski starting to move up a little bit in the betting, so people are laying a little bit of money on him, but not much. He's 34-23, 17 KOs, 3 subs, 14 decisions, 2-3 in his last 5, coming off of a unanimous decision loss to Waldo Cortez Acosta. Martin Buday is 13-2, 7 KOs, 2 subs, 4 decisions, 4-1 in his last 5, coming off of a loss by TKO to Shamil Gaziev. We had one of these on the last fight night card. It's one of those, we refer to it at the Fight Pit as one of those heavyweight fights, because these things are the most difficult thing to call. They always seem as though they're going to finish by knockout in the first 30 seconds and end up going a full 5-round decision, or it's two dudes who normally carry on into the later rounds getting a quick flash knockout or something. Derek Lewis by flying knee, something ridiculous. I always want to give Andrei Arlovski the benefit of the doubt just because he's been doing it so long. I've been watching him since I was like a teenager, I think. It was a long time ago.
It's insane he's 45 and still fighting. It's insane.
I can't even understand how anybody's able to do that without, a little bit of assistance.
I mean, the only person that's close is Clay Guida.
Clay, Jim Miller's getting up there. Nick Diaz, I think he's like 38 or something. It's incredible what people can do.
No, Nick is 40. Nick is 40.
Really? He's 4-0? Damn. Oh, dude, that is insane. The last ones that I recall were like Dan Henderson and Randy Couture and guys like, or DC,
Jim Miller is also 40.
You don't see people fight to get to that 4 in their age. You know what I mean? So seeing like so many of them in recent memory and like going on right now too, it's pretty cool. As a guy who came up watching those dudes, I would love to watch them as long as possible, and they can do whatever they want as long as it's, as long as they're taking care of themselves and they're not hurting anybody. Try to live until 200 and fight until 150 years old. And like, they're so even on, they both have a similar amount of stoppage wins. They both, favor TKOs and decisions. They have similar striking numbers. They're fairly evenly matched. Buday does land a few more strikes per minute, but other than that, everything is pretty much identical. So this is one of those heavyweight fights that I just have a hard time picking. Logically, I have to go with Martin Buday, but I'm not super confident in that. I'll make that the official pick, but definitely hedge something on Andrei Arlovski because he's one of those guys that just will come out of nowhere with something, like Anthony Smith that we just saw.
He's always dangerous to submit someone to.
Yeah, he does. People think about the knockout power, but he has wins of all types. He's been fighting so long that he's got wins every which way that you can get it at this point. But I think it'll be a good fight. I think it's going to go over 1.5, and I would just say Buday money line. I feel like I'm pronouncing that one wrong too. Buday. the day. But I just lay money line on this one if you're going to follow with the official picks, because I don't feel confident in either which way that we bet it. The most confident bet that you can put on that, I would say, is probably going to be over 1.5, because these are guys that, as of late, have been carrying on into the later rounds more often than not. Next one up, finishing off the early prelims, we got number 14, Michelle Waterson-Gomez versus number 15, Jillian Robertson. Oh, I love watching her fight.
Yeah. I already had it in my little notes. Jillian Robertson fighting, pan over to Drew. It was already in there. No, this is the easier of the two women's fights to call. Jillian Robertson's coming off a very, very good win over Polyana Viana. In a second round knockout of Polyana. And Michelle Waterson-Gomez, who historically been doing it a long time, very good fighter, been around for a good while, is on a 4-fight losing streak. And she just has not been looking herself at all in these last fights. Her takedown efficiency is atrocious in these last 4 fights. Her striking rates under 40%. And she's absorbing over 50% of strikes and at a over 55% successful strike absorption rate. And you just can't be doing that. She also lost a submission in round 2 to Amanda Lemos 3 fights ago. So she's been getting put out and tapped out in the last 4 fights on this losing streak. She's more of a point fighter, I think, and not to say the skills are eroding. I think people are just catching up to the skill set. And like the new breed of women coming out of there are just stronger and way faster.
Michelle Waterson is another one who's getting up there in age too. I know we're not supposed to talk about women's ages, but in fight terms, she's been doing it for so long.
Yeah, and I think it really did just finally catch up. And the whole last few fights have reflected it. I'm going to say Jillian by knockout again in round 2. It's going to be right on that line of 1.5. It's going to be real close, so I'd stay away from it. So I would just go Jillian by whatever finish you may have. Both of them are very likely. I'd just pepper a little more on TKO.
Yeah, I usually will just throw Jillian Robertson by submission on for every card that she's on, regardless of who she's going up against, because she's just one of those. She's really honed her grappling and then started to like incorporate crisp and like clean striking and stuff too.
She will have the advantage standing, I think, which is insane because, as you said, she's primarily a grappler. But I do think she will have the advantage standing, just because Michelle is always dangerous on the ground herself. Right. So, not that saying Jillian doesn't have the edge on the ground. I think she's in a little more danger on the ground versus standing up.
Right. And Karate Hottie, she's been doing that style for so long too that's kind of like Wonder Boy in like the Wonder Boy of the women's division. She was like, or Machida even, those guys that like have like a solid karate base and translate it to mixed martial arts so well that they're able to do well. Man, I remember Michelle Waterson back when she was the atom weight champion. Like that, I think that's like 105 or something like that. But yeah, I remember she's been around for so long. I wouldn't be upset if, we just randomly came out to a Michelle Waterson retirement. Not that I want that or anything, but like I said, I would, if it happened, I would totally understand. All right.
Yeah, she's 38. I wouldn't be too surprised.
And like hitting skids, there's only so long where you have to like take punishment.
And she's been in the UFC for coming on a decade.
Yeah. She has nothing left to prove. She's one of the GOATs of the women's divisions for sure. The next one, though, very, very highly anticipated, especially with us here in the fight pit. We have a 135-pound fight. Friend of the show, Peyton Talbot, our first ever interview with a fighter on the fight pit. And what a hell of a
current active UFC fighter. That.
Yeah, current active UFC fighter since the inception or the inaugural one, per se. What it's turned into and everything has just been awesome, and we owe a lot of that to Peyton for, giving us the time of day when it was early on. And he's going up against Giannis Gamori, and Peyton Talbot has been the largest favorite on this card and one of the largest favorites in a while ever since it opened. Unfortunately for us, because he's our boy, and we're going to bet on him no matter what. But Gamori is no slouch. Peyton Talbot is undefeated. He's 8-0, 6 KOs, 1 sub, 1 decision, 5-0 in his last 5, obviously. His last fight was a win, a TKO over Cameron Simon, which was a very evenly matched fight on paper. Giannis Gamori is 12-2, 3 KOs, 4 subs, 5 decisions. He's 4-1 in his last 5. Is coming off of a TKO loss to William Gomez. I will break this one down, but you already know who I'm going with. It's should be no surprise. The significant strikes that these guys land is per minute is a huge gap. Peyton Talbot has around 8 strikes landed per minute. Gamori has just over 2. Peyton Talbot lands half of his significant strikes, and he absorbs almost 1 strike less per minute than Gamori does. As far as the grappling goes, Peyton Talbot has a 90% takedown defense, which is the highest stat as far as the grappling is concerned. And I think this was, I'm not quite sure why they made this fight, because it feels like, in a sense, Peyton Talbot is taking a step down in competition from the last one, because Cameron Simon was so highly touted, and it was warranted. But this one, like we said, it's been the biggest favorite the entire time, the entire duration of this fight being added to the card. It's been a heavy favorite for Peyton Talbot. And his striking has just, he was a wrestler like back in school. But he's even said himself that he wasn't like super great at it or anything, but he's got it. And, I think he doesn't give himself enough credit with that. His grappling is, in any of the fights that he's been in, his grappling is always on a higher level too. It's phenomenal, but his striking has really, really rounded out as he's come up. And this one, no secret, I'm taking Peyton Talbot by TKO under 2.5. But I hate to say it, whenever there's this big enough of a discrepancy in the odds, sometimes you do just have to sprinkle just in case. But the official pick that I'm going with, and we'll get Gage's official pick on this one too, since Peyton's one of our favorites. But I'm going with TKO. I'm gonna say second round, but I think it's going under 2.5 on this one for sure. Gage, how do you
feel? You took my pick pretty much dead on. This will be Giannis is, I think, his second fight in the UFC. The second fight, because he had 2 cancellations. He got put out late in his first fight, and Peyton throws way more than William Gomis does.
Yeah.
And we saw what Peyton did to Cameron Simon, who was supposed to be at equal footing, and it's really because the way Peyton handled Cameron really is where he blew up. Pretty in good style, not so much great celebration. He already said he's gonna not bust that one out again. But he just mismatched some striking, and he does have ground game, as you said. Can submit people. I would be very surprised if you didn't put him out round one.
Going round one, yeah. And I'd totally see that happening. And that's no knock on Giannis. Everybody who gets into the UFC is you don't get to the UFC.
He is 12-2. He's 12-2.
Exactly. And you don't get to the UFC if you're not some of the best, you know, but sometimes you run into somebody like Peyton Talbot early on, and it gives you a good springboard if you're able to pull something off. But you know, sometimes early on you just get like a Sean O'Malley, Eddie Wineland, or a Sean O'Malley, what was his name? Chris Moutinho.
Moutinho, yeah.
Every now and
then. Zombie.
Exactly. And so I don't think Giannis loses anything from this fight either way, because Peyton is a motherfucker. Peyton is a motherfucker, dude. And he's a tough fight for anybody at any any stage.
Sleepy for a reason, man.
Yeah. No joke. So yeah, official pick. We're going with Peyton Talbot, TKO, under 2.5. You could throw it in round 2, throw it in round 1, whichever you prefer. You know, we're just giving you our picks. You can use it however you like. If you choose to tail or if you choose to fade, that is up to you. But I would definitely make sure you throw on a Peyton Talbot finish of some sort on this one, if nothing else. The next
that brings us to a featherweight, a little 145 action. We got Charles Air Jordan against Jean Lord Silva. Charles is coming off a loss decision to Sean Woodson, which, okay, a lot of people lately have been losing to Sean Woodson. Very tough outing, very tall, lanky fighter in his own regard. So I don't think that loss you can really hang your head on. You made it, the decision made it to the cards. Not a lot of people do. But he is 15-7-1, and he is 2-3-2 in his last 5, I believe. He is 2-3 in his last 5. Correction. 28 and 69-inch reach against Jean Silva, who's 27. 2 inches shorter, same 69-inch reach. This is Silva's first fight in the UFC. Sorry, second fight in the UFC after knocking out Weston Wilson in the first round, in the end of the first round. His striking was at a 70% clip in his first fight, and every single one of his strikes was listed as a significant strike, which is hard to come by. He also was one for one on his takedowns in that fight, so I'd like to see where he goes from there. Charles Jordan does have good but not excellent takedown defense. Will also try to take you down. Does have ground game. Does strike in his career about a 51% clip, and does absorb less than 49%, I believe. So it's going to be a very, very close fight. I think the odds are pretty spot on for this one, but I would lean. I'm gonna hedge here for the bettors. If you like this fight going to the cards, I would lean Charles Jordan. But if you don't think the fight makes the card, I would leave Jean Silva. His gas tank really hasn't been tested, which is my only worry for him. getting into like late second, early and the third round itself, because he hasn't really had to do it. But I'm leaning towards he's got a great camp. He's in great shape. And I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt that he can either way. But I do think he does put out Charles. No, I don't. I'm going to say it's going to go to the cards. I'm going to take John Silver to the cards. I'm going to say he does get enough done.
Still gets it done if it goes to a decision.
Yeah, Charles Jordan hasn't been finished in a lot of years. And I just don't think John Silva in his second UFC fight is going to be the guy to do it. He does have a lot of power. He's dangerous. It could very well happen, but I do think Charles can, if he can survive against Charles Wood, he can survive here and get to the cards. It's going to be very close, mind you.
It is, yeah. The minus 130 plus 110 that they opened as is that's essentially, and it has since moved to minus 120 plus 100. But that's essentially a pick 'em when it comes to betting. So it's definitely laying money on John Silva is not throwing money away, even though he's a plus money. That's essentially a pick 'em bet. But I agree.
The last time Charles Jordan was finished was 2021. He got submitted in the late third round.
So even then, I mean, it almost didn't even happen. Very rare. Very rare. That's a good one. I like it. Official pick, John Silva decision on that one. I like it. The next one, staying at 145. We got Cub Swanson at a plus 205 versus Andre Touchy-Feely minus 250 favorite. Oh, this is a sweet one, man. This is a sweet one. Both of these guys always candidates for fight of the night. And this, I think this is going to be such a beautiful matchup. Even though the odds have it a little bit more towards Feely, I think that even at this stage, Cub is another one of those guys who's been around forever. Andre's been around forever too, but not always in the UFC. He got in a little bit later. But Cub Swanson is 29-13. He's got 13 KOs, 4 submissions, 12 decisions. He's 3-2 in his last 5, coming off a unanimous decision win over Hakeem Dawodu. And Andre Feely, 23-11. They both have almost the same amount of fights. 10 KO wins, 3 submissions, 10 decision wins, 2-3 in his last 5, coming off of that KO loss at the hands of Dan Ige, which was another sick fight. I feel like they've just been, all the Andre Feely fights that we've gotten over the last few years have been just absolute gifts. This one, I don't see anybody really opting to grapple in this one unless, the striking is not going in their favor at any point. Maybe trying to change the pace of the fight and change the level of the fight if they're on the losing end of the striking. But I feel like for the most part, these guys are just going to stand up and just fucking slug it out. 2 guys who love slugging it out, 2 guys who are really good at slugging it out, who are both really tough and can hang for quite a while. As far as the grappling goes, Andre Feely shoots 1 more takedown per fight, per 15-minute fight, than Cub Swanson does. And he has a 47% takedown accuracy and a 69% takedown defense. So he's would seem that he gets people down a lot more than he is taken down himself. And they both average under 1 submission. So even if they do go to the ground, probably going to be a lot of striking on top going on, more so than submission attempts from these guys. I like Andre Feely in this one. Like I said, I think it's going to be a slugfest, but I do think that it's going to end up going to a decision. It's going to make it to the scorecards, and I got Andre Feely winning a unanimous decision. Obviously over 2.5. Break that up however you like. You can go even safer, go over 1.5. You could say fight to go the distance, however you prefer to go through that one. And I think this one is definitely going to be a candidate for fight of the night early on. I think this will be one of the first ones that really gets the crowd popping, like in a real big way, unless we get like an Andrei Arlovsky knockout in real early on. But I think this is going to be definitely one that you don't want to go to the bathroom for.
And that will bring us to a little middleweight action at 185 with Joe Pfeiffer against Marc-Andre Barriault. Both these guys coming off losses. Let's go Joe Pfeiffer first. Joe Pfeiffer lost to Jack Hermansson via unanimous decision and looked quite honestly awful in that fight. Struck under a 40% clip, didn't throw a lot. Jack threw, I think, over 350 strikes at him in that fight and hit at, let me get my information correct here. Jack hit at a 57.5% clip, which you can't do. You can't get hit by over 50% significant strikes as well. Joe Pfeiffer was 0 for 6 on takedowns in that fight as well. And
that was so weird.
Which is not, well, I remember us predicting this fight in February, not where we thought this was going to go. We were all on the Joe Pfeiffer submission train because he looked great on the ground, good standing up, and really thought he had all the tools. And Jack just shut him way down. And on the other end, Marc-Andre Barriault lost to Chris Curtis by decision, but that fight was exceedingly close, especially on the stat sheet of like almost dead even on strikes. Marc-Andre not going to shy away. Will stay and bang with you the entire fight, but can take you down. He can. He's versing ground game, but it is the weaker of the two elements he possesses. This is where I think Joe Pfeiffer needs to exploit. He needs to get super efficient on the takedowns. I'm not saying he's going to be able to, take him down and hold him. I don't think that's possible. Marc-Andre will fight you and get to the position of advantage for himself or get back standing. I don't think Joe Pfeiffer is going to settle for a ground and hold you there. Joe Pfeiffer works for the submissions hard and tries to get to a position to tap you out, which is a weakness of Marc-Andre. He's been tapped out quite a bit in his 5-year UFC stint, and I really hope Joe bounces back. I'm going to lean on it, and I'm going to go Joe Pfeiffer by submission. If you don't like the Joe Pfeiffer pick based on the stats I just kind of rambled out, another good side of it, you can go Marc-Andre by decision. Officially, I'm going Joe Pfeiffer by submission.
I think that's still the way to go, even, regardless of how the last fight went. And also in support because of how the last fight went. I think you definitely got to, Barriault, I feel is a step up, in the higher direction from where Joe Pfeiffer is at the moment. I think that they threw him out there, trying to get him one of those big name wins early on. And, but I still feel like Barriault is going to be a tough one. And you gotta definitely at least sprinkle, quarter of a unit or something on Barriault money line on this one. And that brings us on to the main card, and the only one that I don't really have an official pick for. This one I feel like is so difficult. Ian Gary versus Michael Page. Like I said early on, even though they're 7 spots apart from each other, 7 and 14 in the rankings, I feel like this fight is going to be a lot closer than it's would seem on paper if you're looking at the rankings. Michael Page has only been a plus 120 the entire time. So again, another very like close fight betting wise. Ian Gary, again, he has that 14-0 that we talked about earlier on too. 7 KOs, 1 sub, 6 decision wins, 5-0 in his last 5, and coming off a split decision win over Jeff Neal. He is a minus 140 to minus 145, depending on where you're getting him at. But he's got that O that we always think is going to stay intact. And so they always get the favorite, push as far as the betting odds go. But I think Michael Page is going to be a test for him, man. Michael Page is 22-2. He's got 13 KOs, 3 submission wins, 6 decision wins. He's 4-1 in his last 5, coming off of a unanimous decision win over Kevin Big Mouth Holland. I feel as though Ian Gary is going to try to push Michael Page up against the cage in this fight, which I think is something that he does quite often. And I don't know that he'll be able to do too much with Michael Venom Page if he does get him put up against the fence in a clinch. And I feel as though this one might be an Ian Gary unanimous decision win or split decision win even when it's all said and done. But I feel like a lot of it is going to be because of moments like that where Ian Gary has that dominant position but isn't able to do too much with it. And so they award points just to who was in the dominant position more so than the other. But I don't think that Ian Gary wants anything of Michael Venom Page's striking in this one. I don't know anybody that wants anything of Michael Venom Page's striking. It's just he's too much of a wild card. He's too crazy. He's too unorthodox. He throws stuff that people don't see, and you just never know on this one. I thought he was going to have a tough time with Kevin Holland. I thought Kevin Holland might be a tougher fight than Ian Gary, and he made that look a lot easier than I thought he would. I think the smart bet would be Ian Gary, and I feel like Ian Gary by decision is something that I'm going to sprinkle on, but I'm going to go with Michael Page on this one. I'm going to go official pick Michael Venom Page. I think if he doesn't get some sort of like leg kick TKO or some sort of weird spinning back fist TKO or something like that, I think that he will win a decision again. And I don't see Ian Gary doing too much with him on the feet. Next one up, we got the other female fight at 135.
And so, real quick, I'd just like to point out that MVP's takedown defense is 66%.
Yeah, exactly.
For his career.
Where I'm trying not to go too long on time, but like, I really don't feel as though looking at all the stats and, the way that both of their fighting styles have been trending lately, I see Ian Gary trying to clinch and trying to get a takedown and trying to do the Khabib type thing. But
yeah, the thing is, you have to get your hands on Michael Venom Page first, which if you could see from Kevin Holland, who's getting very visibly frustrated, not easy to do.
Mm-hmm. A guy who normally frustrates people.
Yeah. It's what I saw from that fight is that a 37-year-old MVP still moves very, very fast and has all his tools still very sharp. So I think Ian Gary's probably set up for a little bit of failure here.
I don't think it's going to be easy by any means. If he gets it done, I think he gets it done by a close decision. But
if Ian does get it done, it's not a snooze fest. I think it'll shut a lot of people up, myself among them, those masses.
That's true. That's true. I will. I try to always, give guys respect, but like I was saying, earlier on, I can't tell if I want Michael Venom Page to win because I think he's going to win or because I just want Ian Gary to lose. But, definitely respect him. He's number 7 in the world. So you can't really hate on that. Can't hate on that at all. Only people who can hate on number 7 in the world is 1 through 6. Everybody else has to shut the fuck up.
So we got a little women's action. We had Mayra Bueno Silva against Macy Chiasson. This is, I was saying earlier in a little pre-show that this is going to be a very, very close fight. Very hard to call when I was trying to break down their stats and how they've been fighting over the last 5. And they both have put together very, very good streaks. The only one blemish is Macy 2 fights ago got knocked out by Arena Aldana. Happens. Mayra just lost her last fight to Raquel Pennington for the belt. So you can't be mad by either of those.
Yeah.
They put on a stellar streak, stellar fights of win by decision, submissions, a couple knockouts sprinkled in there. And it's I checked the fight odd has them both at -110, so it is a dead set pick'em. And I was trying to find something that would discern either of them apart that I can make this decision. The only thing that I had any inkling of who to pick was Mayra just fought for the belt. She was just there. I think she wants to bounce back and get there again. That's going to be a big motivator. Macy's trying to get there as well. But tasting it and losing it by decision is a big motivator. And just fighting like opponents, Macy had a worse fight against Raquel than Mayra had against Raquel. And Macy fought Raquel 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Different people. So I think Mayra got a better version of Raquel in the title fight. So I would lean Mayra by decision because I don't think either of them can really hold a firm edge striking or on the ground to either put them out or tap them out. So I think it will go to the cards, but I'm not going to say it's going to be boring. I think it's going to be a very interesting 3 rounds.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier too when I was looking at it. Mayra Bueno Silva. I feel like that title fight is the best that Raquel Pennington has ever looked, which wasn't super different from what she looked like, back when Macy Chiasson fought her. But you could see the improvements. And Mayra Bueno Silva made a fight of it for sure. So that one is, you have a decision on that one, and who was it for? Silva?
Mayra by decision. I'll even say it's going to be split too. I think that's really how close this fight's going to be. It's going to be a great second fight on the main card to really keep the night moving on.
Right. I agree 100%. Taking this on to the Coco main of the night. We got 205 action, interestingly enough. Anthony Smith, number 10, open at as a plus 125 versus Roman Dolidze, who opened as a minus 150. If I recall correctly, this is Roman Dolidze. Is this his debut at light heavyweight? Because I don't recall seeing him at light heavyweight ever again.
No, because he's not ranked either. And he's a ranked fighter.
Right. Yeah, because I could have swore he was just booked against Anthony Hernandez,
Yeah, no, he fought was supposed to fight Fluffy on 302.
Yeah, so I feel like going up against Anthony Smith on short notice while making your debut.
This fight was the only one that got absolutely screwed by the card.
Yeah, it got destroyed. It started out as, if I recall correctly,
Khalil against Jamal, which I didn't want Jamal to fight Khalil.
No, nobody.
And then it went Jamal Carlos, which was even worse. Not saying Jamal isn't a former champion, but he just got knocked out.
It was just a couple months ago, dude. Like
2 months ago.
And going against other knockout artists.
Carlos Ulberg had insane power. And Jamal came off of surgery too. Like, still isn't a year out of surgery. Like, don't forget that.
Barely half a year out of surgery.
So then Carlos got hurt. No, then Jamal got hurt. Then it was Carlos against Anthony Smith. Then Carlos got hurt. And now it's Roman going up in weight to fight Anthony Smith.
Which credit to him. That's,
Like, you got, like... Yeah, if anyone's ever seen Always Sunny in Philadelphia, it's just Charlie looking with all the strings in the background, trying to figure out how we got here. He should have just let it die. Because now neither of these guys were supposed to fight on this card, and we're just step up after step up after step up. Like, put Peyton Talbot opening the main card, and just bump everyone up a little bit, and then get 2 lesser-known fighters.
Yeah. I could have sworn
that. Or bump Joe Pfeiffer and
right.
Joe Pfeiffer, Mark Andre would have been perfect, solid main card.
It's a main card fight for sure. Cub Swanson, Andre Feely is a main card fight.
That would have been an awesome fight, a main card opener.
Even Michelle Watterson and Jillian Robertson.
I don't think we can move it from early prelims to the main card. I think that would be one of the fight that would probably get bumped from early prelims into the prelims if that happened. Which I think would be great too. But I just the shuffling between people, not in full camps, not training for opponents.
Yeah, it started as the co-main, the third fight from the last, and kind of devolved into like the main card opener or so. But it's still, at the spot that it had. So, and I mean, like I said, credit to Smith and Dolidze for stepping up. Neither of them had to fight. Neither of them started this month, maybe.
Or even flip-flop this with a MVP and Gary fight and let this fight open up.
Yeah, I would have no issues with this being the main card opener at all. Like, that would be, if they had just booked this card with only 4 fights and then told us, when they told us like a week or 2 ago, oh, by the way, we just threw Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze on to open up the main card, I'd be like, that's a sick fucking late entry. That's awesome. But yeah, just the potential that it had before kind of diluted it a little bit. Anthony Smith, 38-19, 20 KOs, 15 submissions, and 3 decisions. Roman Dolidze's 12-3, 7 KOs, 3 subs, and 2 decisions. Anthony Smith coming off the submission win over Vitor Petrino, and Roman Dolidze coming off a majority decision loss to Nasruddin Imavov, which we just saw Nasruddin Imavov do work, in a sense, against Jared Cannonier. Before that bad stoppage, he looked good. So, Nasruddin is not a tough fight, or is not an easy fight by any means for anybody. But this one, it's short notice fights, man. We hate calling short notice fights because there's just no telling. There's no telling. Anything could happen. I'm going to go with Anthony Smith on this one, even though he's the plus money. I feel like moving up to light heavyweight and making your debut against somebody like Anthony Smith, who's still number 10 in the rankings. I mean, that's not an easy debut for anybody, no matter how long you've been fighting. No matter how long you've been fighting in even the UFC, that's just a difficult debut. I'm going to go with Anthony Smith by decision, but I think that both of these guys have solid finish rates. 50% of their finishes for both of them are by KO or TKO, and then submissions is the next one. They don't go to decision in their wins very often. They both land at a decent clip. They both throw at a decent clip. They both absorb about the same amount that they throw, and both of these guys go after it. They go after it. I think both of these guys are gonna try to put on a show. I think both of them feel like this is just, in a sense, like a free fight. You know what I mean? Like, it's a free opportunity to be on a big card that has big names and had bigger names before, and do something that makes people think like, oh, wow, that's awesome. That was impressive. Get a big finish. Try to not kill the momentum going into the co-main and main events. I think these guys are going to go after it. I think it's going to be, Anthony Smith by, I would say, split decision, but I think just betting decision in any which way, over 2.5, obviously. But yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting one. And I think that I hope that they rebook the original fights as soon as possible, as soon as they're able. And that takes us on to the co-main event back at 145. Number 3, Brian Ortega versus number 14, Diego Lopez. This is another late edition and another one.
This is a banger, though.
Not mad at all. Not mad at all.
Oh, boy. Well, this is the last 45-pound fight for Brian Ortega.
And then what?
He has confirmed he's going up to 155.
Ooh, 155. Dang.
He said it in the interview that he doesn't see himself getting a shot at Elia or whoever in the near future, so he's going up to have a better chance to try and take a shot at Islam or whoever.
Man, that's going to be interesting.
Which is, I mean, I get it. He's been around the top for a long time, has fought and lost to the guys at the top.
Mm-hmm.
145 is super competitive. Super competitive. And I get it. He doesn't see himself at 3 getting a chance anytime soon, and he doesn't want to sit and wait, which respectable. He's been doing it long enough.
Right.
I remember the last time Brian Ortega was outside the top 5. And that's with year off for surgery and rehab and everything.
Yeah, a lot of layoffs.
And then he came back and beat Yair.
And looked good. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't one of those ones that people would call a fluke or anything like that.
And that was a tough submission. That was tough. But yeah, so next this is the last we'll see of Brian Ortega at 145. And it's a hell of a way to do it, because Diego Lopes, the emo comb over mullet combo,
The emo
is going hard, bro. He looked phenomenal in his 30-second KO
against Yusuf, dude. Yusuf is no joke.
Yeah, and looked great. He's getting an opportunity at number 3 from number 14. Huge opportunity for him. One problem though is Brian Ortega is a python when you get him to the ground, and his striking's become increasingly better the longer he gets in the cage. But I think Diego has his record for a reason. Is a highly touted prospect for a reason. It has phenomenal striking. His ground game is suffocating. So I do not know which way this is going to go. My best bet for anyone would be over 2.5 on the fight. I don't know which way I'd go.
Tough, dude.
Very tough because Diego's steamrolling people, but it's Brian Ortega.
It is Brian Ortega. It is. Brian Ortega, not far off in the odds either. So.
No, it's so close. Like pretty much the whole main card is super pick'em. You want for a main card. That's what you want. But
absolutely.
I think Brian Ortega goes out on a high note.
Yeah.
I think he does get a strong decision win against Diego Lopes.
I like that, my friend. I like that. I've been saying since it opened, I've been going back and forth with people on Instagram.
Because it's going to be a war. It's going to be an absolute war. Like, this could be fighting. Yeah. Like, depending on how Jiri and Alex do, this could really have a strong case.
It could. It does. The hype on Diego right now is...
he's backed it up every time he steps in.
Yeah, I would be willing to even say that he's starting to reach, like, cult classic status. Like... He's got one of those followings, just like you were saying with the emo-over and the tattoos and stuff. He's got the look. He's got that marketable like personality. He's got that exciting fighting style. He's got highlights, all the stuff that they want as a star to push. And he's not American, which is like they have stars like that, like being able to push somebody like that, like on Mexican Independence Day. And, they're even going to the Sphere and like with Noche and stuff, having stars in other countries is like huge market possibilities for the UFC. And having him be favored in this is like, it's tough. That's a tough spot to be in, to be favored against Brian Ortega when you're number 14 and he's number 3. That's a lot of fucking pressure. That's a lot of pressure.
It's honestly, if I had to give anyone any advice for betting this, I'd say either stay the fuck away from it, or just bet over 2.5 because that's about the only thing that looks kind of safe.
Yeah, I'm split on this one too. I don't really know how to put it, but I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on finishes from these guys, but I think this one for sure goes over 1.5. Absolutely. And I think the
only thing I really think gives the edge is because we've never seen Diego have to go 5.
Yeah, never seen him have to go 5, and we haven't seen him against anybody in the top 5 yet. You know what I mean? Like, and that is a big step up. He's definitely got the style. He's got the skills to pay the bills. He can do it by all means, but it's a tough test. Brian Ortega doesn't lose to people that aren't,
Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski,
top 3 if you include
number
1, number 2, number 3. But I'm going with Ortega too, officially. Put that on my record. I might regret it, but
I won't be mad either way. Like, it's going to be a great fight to watch.
Yeah. This is one of those ones that we hate to see just because we don't want to see either of these guys lose in the fight or in, the status as far as rankings and shit are concerned.
This fight will be firmly capped off my parlay for Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
The last one's last one's a little too tough, huh?
yeah, it's just too close. I just don't
Yeah.
feel good either way I put that.
It's going to be interesting, dude. It is going to be interesting. Of course, we're talking about the main event at light heavyweight 205. The champion, Alex Pereira, going up against the number one ranked former champion, Jiri Prochazka. And as far as the odds, like you were saying, Alex Pereira opened at a minus 155. He's down to a minus 135 now. Prochazka opened as a plus 130. He's at a plus 115. So this one, I say by the time the fight kicks off, this one's a pick 'em too. We got finishes galore in their records. Alex Pereira's 10-2, 8 KOs, 2 decisions. Jiri Prochazka has 26 KO wins, dude. 26 KO wins. 3 submission wins and 1 decision. He's 30-4-1 with 1 no contest. 26 KOs. That is insane. There's over 30 KOs between these guys.
So people like kind of get like put off from it how bad of a dude Yuri is just because he's so goofy.
Right. He gives no fucks to the perfect degree. Like he keeps himself, at distance very well. He's a very good gauge of distance, and he is constantly head movement, like herky jerky. He's never just on the center line, just waiting for you to throw something and then he can try to react to it. He is like Agent Smith in the Matrix when they start going all kinds of different ways and stuff when they're dodging bullets. He is so unorthodox. He is so, like you said, goofy. He's so herky jerky. He's just and being that the last fight ended early in the second round, I believe. Yeah. I feel like if that fight would have went longer, I feel like things would have been a little bit more evenly matched than people give credit for. But this is such a tough one to call. Credit again to them for stepping up on short notice too. But dude,
this is, I think, clear for me. I enjoy watching both of these guys fight, especially against each other. Alex Pereira is just a fucking killer, and
of a different breed.
He's just right now. He's just the hottest fighter in the UFC, and streaks like that are like early Tony Ferguson. It's just that kind of like streak where you just look like, damn, I don't know who beats that guy. Like, yes, he lost. He got knocked out by Izzy. Then he moves up and wins another belt and fights the best that division has to offer. And decision against Jan, knockout again.
Yeah.
And
he's a bad dude.
And he dismantled Jamal.
Insane. Yeah. And it didn't even get the credit for how crazy it was because it was following Holloway and Gaethje, but if Holloway and Gaethje wasn't on UFC 300, that's the knockout people would be talking about for UFC 300. People would be going nuts over that.
So it's so like, again, one of the fights you don't want to see either of these guys go down like that. And it's hard putting your money and your prediction anywhere else than Peloton, and it's mythic. It's one of those fighters that pops up.
Mythical fighter, yeah.
Huh?
Mythical fighter.
I was just saying, one of those mythical fighters that just pops up for like 2 years, and then you never see that type of steamroll again.
No, dude, just his overall like demeanor and it
once he walks in and that whole thing with the arrow is just sickening. Like,
Yeah.
I could never be in that position to mentally just watch that dude march into that octagon at you and be like,
Right.
yeah, this is gonna be fun today.
Yeah, there's nobody that he has faced that hasn't been standing in the ring waiting for him to get there and been like, oh, I can't wait. Like, nobody has ever been happy to fight this guy. And they're both coming off of KO wins, and they're both 4-1 in their last 5. They both are.
Not to mention, he did beat Knockout Izzy at the height of Israel Adesanya is the most unbeatable fighter on the planet.
Yeah, at the very peak. He's the one that started the trek down the other side of the mountain. And
which, if you want to look at that, Sean beat Izzy, and Alex knocked the fuck out of Sean too.
Yeah, MMA math, dude. MMA math is, it's cruel. It's cruel and unusual. I for sure think that this one does not go to the distance, either which way. If you need a super safe bet, under 4.5 rounds, but I would be surprised if I think if this one goes,
surprised if it got over 3.5.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be surprised if it got over 3 straight up. Like, if it makes it to the third, I'll be surprised. But this one I think is interesting. If it makes it past the second round, I think Jiri has a lot more of a shot to win it than people give him credit for.
I don't know. He looked, going back to what he fought Glover, oh man, they looked, both of them, just dog tired going into that late third, early fourth round.
But see, what I think about with that one too is there was a lot of instances in that fight when either of them like had something if they would have stuck with it, but they didn't stick with it, and so it kind of turned the tables and stuff. Like, Jiri would be on top doing ground and pound and stuff. Glover would get like a reversal or a switch, and he would end up on top. Like, the tide just kept changing in that fight so often that I feel like there were some opportunities for each guy to get a finish before that, and the other one just toughed through it and ended up finding a way out of it and ended up, flipping the scales on it. And I don't think that would happen with Pereira. I feel like if Jiri were to get into one of those kinds of fights with Pereira is just going to put him out. He's not one of those like balls to the wall, open it up and just, just go for it nonstop, and whoever falls first falls.
Also, you gotta remember, Alex's conditioning comes from kickboxing, where he's fighting 10 rounds.
Right. Yeah, and we don't see him get to grapple too much too. Grappling cardio and striking cardio.
He had very good takedown defense in the first fight against Jiri. So I think he definitely drills it. Definitely probably drills it pretty heavy.
Absolutely. Both guys by knockout on this one. Both guys by knockout. Rounds 1 and 2. Probably going to be the least amount of money. 3, yeah. You could hit fight to not go the distance if you want another super safe bet. That one's probably going to be astronomical, like minus fucking 800 or something. But yeah. But I think as far as plus money is concerned, I think that Poatan by knockout is going to be even minus money as far as method of result goes. The official odds that they have for them right now are still 135 and plus 115. So let's see what we got right here. Oh, so Pereira by KO is still at plus 110. So you could still get some plus money on that if you hurry. And Jiri by KO is plus 150. I think that's a tough one. That's a tough one. But like I said, if it goes past round 2, I give Jiri a little bit better of a chance, because I think taking Alex into the deep waters is the only hope that anybody has at beating him any which way. If you can't get him down you just got to hope that he gets so tired he can't land something hard. But Alex Pereira by KO in round 1 is plus 400, and for round 2 is plus 600. So there's some plus money if you're looking for there. And then of course, Jiri Prochazka, any of his finishes are going to be plus money because he's still sitting at a plus money dog on the money line. But yeah, I like the finish by Poeton. And
I'm going round 3 Poeton finish officially.
Yep, agreed. I like it. We can duel that. We can double that up. What about lock and dog of the week?
Peyton
Talbot lock. Absolutely. Tough way to bet. Like, you gotta, even though he's our lock, it's gonna be, you gotta get interesting with it if you're gonna make anything on it, because
it's a good leg in the parlay.
Absolutely. If you've got like a 4, 5, 6 something going, or if you're making one of those random astronomical like 25-cent full card picks or something, absolutely.
That's how I run it. I usually do a 5 to 10 full card.
Yeah.
10 legger.
I'll break it up too. I'll have like 5 of them that are, they don't even offer method of victory for Peyton Talbot at the moment. We'll see if they open that up tomorrow. They usually open stuff like that up if they're going to, the day of the fight or the day before. But it's still a little early on in the week, I guess. So be on the lookout for that. But
my official dog of the week would be Michael Venom Page.
Yeah. The only other one that I was thinking or the only other ones that I think have the best shot is Brian and Anthony Smith. Because I think Anthony Smith is going to do it. I would say, ranking them in order of most confident as far as dogs go, I say
Anthony Smith, MVP, Ortega.
Yeah. Anthony Smith, MVP, Ortega. And I think, even though I think I'm the most confident in Anthony Smith, I think I'm going to go MVP for the lock of the week too. I think
it's better odds, and I think it's more likely. I really do.
I like that one because at the heavier weights too, you never know. If it's more likely that Anthony Smith gets caught with something and goes out than.
And you never know which Anthony Smith you get. You never know.
Parlay Buster.
Man,
Parlay Buster. Oh man.
Real quick before we end it, so Dreykus, Izzy, 304 at Perth, or 305 at Perth.
Yeah. Man,
you thinking that becomes official after the 303?
I think so. I could see them announcing it and like dropping the trailer and everything during one of the commercial breaks.
Also, I heard rumblings today. I don't know if you saw Dan Hooker. He signed a fight to fight Charles Oliveira.
I only saw that it was Dan Hooker mentioning that. I still haven't seen anybody confirm it.
No, no. I'm not saying it's been confirmed, right? I'm just saying he made a little something out there that it does exist.
That's a cool fight, dude. That's a cool fight. I mean, does it? Probably doesn't.
Take that fight though. It I don't know, because is Dan even still ranked?
That's what I was thinking too. Like, probably doesn't satisfy the rankings in any which way, but I mean,
because like Dan's a great fighter, super entertaining to watch. Has great last couple fights too.
Right, and he was higher up in the rankings at one point.
Hold on, I gotta look this up real quick.
Yeah, I'm getting on it too. Lightweight Dan Hooker is number 11.
What is Charles right now?
Charles is still number 2. Which, is definitely not going to satisfy the rankings.
But you never know with Charles. You never know.
Right.
You could take it just because he wants to fight. You never know.
Yeah, and that could just be Dan Hooker, getting frustrated and trying to like publicly get something going to build fan interest.
But it'd be a super cool fight.
It would. That would be.
If Dan Hooker would say like 6 or 7, that's a good fight.
Would make more sense for sure.
Because who does Charles fight in the top 5?
Bro, I don't even know. He's already beat 1, 2.
He's not fighting Islam anytime. He's not going to get Arman, who's suspended now anytime soon. Gaethje's taking time off, which is good. Thank
goodness, for sure.
And Dustin's half retired.
Yeah, you can't count on him for nothing right now. If he's not retired, he's going to take time off.
And Michael Chandler's committed to trying to fight Conor.
And Michael Chandler's 6, so that's he already fought Arman Tsarukyan, so that
I just named the top 7 guys at division who none of which Charles can fight right now.
Yeah, Charles Oliveira's already beat half of them.
Yes, he's beat half of them, and those half can't fight. Don't want to see Justin fight Charles anytime soon.
No, those all would be cool rematches to run back because they were competitive in their own ways. Each dude had their moments against Charles Oliveira where it could have gone their way.
Legitimately, actually, I think the one that makes most sense is fuck the Conor McGregor fight, Chandler fight Charles again, because that fight was awesome.
I'm down. I just want Chandler to fight, man. Chandler is my dude. I want him to stop wasting time.
Yeah, he's wasting those last glimmer years too. He's I think 36.
Yeah, he's up there too.
Which means this is almost last runs for him, Charles.
Between Justin, all the wars he's already had in the UFC, plus all the wars he had in Bellator. Can't go on like that too much longer, folks. We gotta appreciate him and
no, that fight with Justin probably took fucking years off his life.
Had to, bro. And even with Dustin, that was a fucking.
Every single fight he's had in UFC has been an absolute banger. Knocked out Dan Hooker in the blender. But
he's had moments where he rocked all the guys that he lost to, Oliveira, Gaethje, and Poirier. He had moments where he rocked him. He had moments where he was winning the fight, and it was just a fucking war, dude. I love it. That's why I don't get why people don't love Michael Chandler more. You know what I mean? Maybe because he goes up against guys that everybody likes, like Poirier and Gaethje and stuff.
And his record doesn't, because he's lost to all these guys.
Right.
But he's fighting the best, and he's putting on absolute fire shows.
And he does kind of have a holier than thou douchey kind of, persona and stuff that he has too, but who doesn't? Yeah.
We're hitting that mark, Drew.
Yeah. That's going to wrap it up. Boy, some fucking bangers that we got to look forward to on this one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be right back here next week doing the same old thing. So you guys come tune in. Drop us comments, follow, and subscribe.
Shout out to Pillow Fight for sponsoring our episode yet again.
Yes, pillowfight.co, the best in the biz, guys. Sleep is so important. It's a 30 of your life. Make sure that you guys are taking it seriously. And when you buy with Pillow Fight, every purchase allows them to send pillows where they're needed most. So thank you, pillowfight.co. You guys hit them up. Make sure to follow the official Fight Pit on Instagram, High Fight IQ, the House Call Sports. Subscribe on YouTube, and let us know who you guys' picks are. All right? We'll be back next week. We'll see you on the next one. Be on the lookout.